This video is to get you up and running your first C++ program with Visual C++. I'm going to use Visual Studio 2010 Professional. You could also use Visual C++ Express, which is available for free, or Visual Studio 2008, Visual C++ Express 2008, available from DreamSpark or Microsoft.com/express. We're going to go to New Project, choose Visual C++, Empty Project. Pay attention to where it's being saved, the projects folder. Give it a name, and notice as you create this project, it's also creating a solution. It's just going to create another layer of a folder. Do OK, and a project will be built, and you should see some folders in the Solution Explorer. If you don't see the Solution Explorer, you might need to go through the View menu. There's a video on Microsoft.com and on the course website about navigating the IDE here. I'm going to right-click the source files to add new item. We're going to add a CPP file, give it a name. It'll automatically add the .cpp extension, so just type the file name and make sure that C++ file .cpp is highlighted. I'm calling mine sample, but it doesn't really matter because there's some sample code in the course website that says to name this file sample.cpp. But it doesn't really matter. I'm highlighting it, copying it, and Control-V to paste it. And this is pretty much the same code that's in the language guide that's in the course website as well. I've made a small modification to it, and I'll explain why. The top section is comments. It's one way of doing comments. Then we have an include statement, another way of writing comments, and our main module. All C++ programs start at the main. That's a function header. You'll see this when you try to run it. Always say yes. And it opens up and runs the program, and this is what you get. I added those 3 lines of code to the end to keep the window open. Otherwise, the window would just flash. If you just had this line here, that would show, but the window would just flash. And notice how those 2 lines were all blurred together. That's because the cout just outputs a line, and then it doesn't automatically end that line. So we can add code to end the line. That's what endl does. So I put another stream operator. That's what those 2 less than signs are called. They're called stream operators. And that's how I kind of combine those 2 things. You can always choose yes there, and I'm going to show you what happens when you have an error. If you get this window, if there's errors, always say no. I deleted that semicolon from the end of this line. Then you should have an error list window. If you don't see that, go to the View menu and choose Other Windows Error List. Usually it's going to tell you the line below where there's a problem. See, it says line 16 here, and we don't have our line numbers visible, so that would be helpful to add that. You do that through the Tools menu, Tools Options, Text Editor, all languages, and it might be slightly different based on which product you're working in, but it's going to be something very similar to that. You can always do a Google search to find out how to do that. And now we see our line numbers on the left side of the window, and we can see it was complaining about line 16, but really the line of code above that was the problem. There's a comment and a blank line on 14 and 15, but the line of code above that is one that was actually missing the semicolon. So get to know and understand your error messages. And return 0 is just a line of code that tells the operating system that everything is okay. It means that the program ran successfully and it exited. Add your own comments. This is the file that you'll need to, actually you need to submit to me at least 2 files, or you can do the entire project folder. This is a solution folder. This is the project folder. I don't really need all this, but you can give me all this. all I really need is the source file and the VC++ project file. But you can zip them all up into one zip file to submit. Either the project file or the solution file. That's fine. If Visual C++ is closed, Visual Studio is closed, you can double click on the VC_proj file to open it. You might not see VC_proj as the file extension. It's actually hidden. It's the one that says type VC++ project. If you double click that one, your project will open back up. You can only run projects. You can't just run a source code file. You need a project to run. So see the green button was enabled there. If I double click this sample, the C++ source file, it'll open up in Visual Studio. Well, after one error on my computer. It'll open up, but you see that play button is not enabled. You can only run the programs that are part of the project. So if you ever opened up an additional CPP file, it might not necessarily be the one in the project that's running. So it's just something to be aware of.